Mary we shared, bottle of cheap red wine. It went boom, 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 twiddle-diddle-dee, twiddle-diddle-dang. It went boom, 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 twiddle-diddle-dee, twiddle-diddle-dang. Yeah, that singer, he kept singing something about a black cat bone.
Hello, welcome to Living Arts. I'm your host, Jackie Suarez. I want to thank you for tuning in. We have a great show for you tonight. We're going to be speaking to singer-songwriter Artie Tobia, and he's here with us tonight. Artie, thank you for coming by.
Well, thank you for having me.
I've been looking forward to talking to you.
Good. I'm looking forward to talking to you. So that works out.
Yeah, so I always like to give our audience a little background on, who our guests, where they came from, where they grew up. So why don't you give us a little background on yourself?
Well, I am a New Yorker, born and raised, and I've moved around a little bit in the state, but I've been in southern Westchester for the last few decades.
So you live in New Rochelle?
I live in New Rochelle, it's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I thought I read somewhere on your website that you grew up in another city. It was?
Well, I lived upstate near Albany for a while, and I lived in Rockland for a while.
Okay.
That's essentially it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So living in the Hudson Valley is working out for you.
Yeah. It's such a great space, kind of along the river towns and up into the mountains, and so I've really come to enjoy that part of, this area of the state. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of nice places, aesthetically and bucolically, and musically. So yeah, there's a lot to offer. A lot of things going on in the Hudson Valley. Yeah.
So did you always like music, or did you study music in high school?
I did not study music in high school. I have always liked music. I have a very, sometimes you hang on to little brief memories of your childhood. I have a very specific memory of being in like first grade maybe, and the music teacher was doing some class, and she played Crocodile Rock by Elton John. And myself and this other kid, whose name was I think Andy Oshrin, or Jonathan Sherry, it was one of those two kids, and we got up in front of the class, and when it came to the part, wah, 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 I did that part. And when I went back to my seat, the kid said, you're so good, you should be a musician. And I said, I can't, I don't play an instrument. But I always remember that. Like, I don't know why I remember that memory. And I was kind of chuckling, going, I guess that all worked out. Like, because that's where I am now, So mm-hmm. I've always had, music has definitely always been a part of my life. I'm the youngest of five. My older siblings are all always listening to music. My parents listen to music. We did a few cross-country trips in a motorhome, the seven of us and the dog and 8-track players.
Oh, wow.
And, Herb Alpert's Tijuana Brass Band and Elvis and John Denver and, a lot of cool music that my parents brought along on that trip. And then, as I say, older siblings listen to this stuff. So, I just always had I was exposed, but not overexposed, but certainly exposed to a lot of it,
So at what point did you pick up the guitar?
Sometime in high school, probably about junior year of high school. But I never really played the guitar until I fronted a band for about 10 years before I ever played the guitar in a band. So I just sang. I never played the guitar. I kind of noodled around, I messed around, but I never really played the guitar in the band ever until till much later, after about 10 years or so, I fronted a band.
Okay, so did that happen straight out of high school that you started working with this band?
Yes. It was. Yeah. It was sometime in the middle of college, I think. So, shortly after high school, mm-hmm. I had done, my friend came to me and said, hey, so-and-so's leaving, can you sing? And I said, no, I knew I could sing, but I wasn't getting in front of anybody to do it. But I said, no, so I kind of helped this band for a while. And then I did West Side Story in high school, and then I was in front of people. And then somehow, shortly after that same band, they had another little shift and we really need you to sing. And I was like, okay, so I sang. So that was the start of it. And the first time I ever played, I stood clutching my mic stand for 2 hours. I don't think I ever moved once. I just stood like this and held on to the mic stand. I never moved. I just sang.
For dear life.
Yeah, for dear life. And yeah, but that was the beginning. But that was always, like I say, always fronting the band, just singing, not playing an instrument.
Okay, now this is, which band is this?
That was Blackberry Jam. That was way, way back in the day. That was Blackberry Jam. That was the first band we ever had. And then really, I've really only had about 3 bands that well, 4 maybe, 4 bands. So I had Blackberry Jam, and then 5 O'Clock Shadow, and then in between there was the Rattle Daddies, and then we had now Artie Tobia band. So I've had a lot of longevity with the guys that I play with over the years, and I was in some other bands here and there, but I was more just kind of stepping in and helping them out than I was really in the band per se, you know.
So which one of those was like your favorite band?
Oh, that's a tough question. I don't know.
Which one of your babies, I guess?
Well, you know, the Blackberry Jam thing was our first. That was our first taste of Blackberry Jam taste. That was good. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. So it was. That was really, but it was the first taste of us being in a band and playing publicly and being paid and being in places where we're getting paid to play, and so that's always going to be very, very special. You know, the Rattle Daddies was fun, but it was kind of a transitional thing for me, and it was. But it sort of created where I was going, I guess, to a degree. But that was after 5 O'Clock Shadow. So 5 O'Clock Shadow was in between there. That, as I kind of always say, was sort of like my Beatles, because that band could only be the 4 guys that was that band. And it was very unique, and it was some good stuff, you know. And it was just very original material, you know, as far as... everybody came from very different backgrounds and really contributed and made it what it was, which I thought was kind of unique in its own way. So
this was also the band where you kind of started to explore, I guess, your songwriting.
Yeah, I mean, 5 O'Clock Shadow is where I had been writing prior to that, but that was where I, for the first time, would write something and present it and then perform it, and you know. So that was the first taste. But I had, you know, Rob Garcia was the drummer in that band. Tim Fitzgerald was the guitar player, and Bob Petty was the eventual bass player that we stuck with. But prior to him, Rob had brought a friend of his in to play bass with us for a while, Jason, and so he at one point said, "Does he write songs about anything other than girls?" So I didn't even realize, like, every song that I had was about girls. I just didn't even, you know, but I was like, whatever I was, I don't know, 19, 20 years old. So what else was I going to write about?
So you mentioned on your website that your style of songwriting is lyric driven.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, now, so it's funny you say that, because the 5 O'Clock Shadow stuff was not lyric driven as much as it was really groove and band driven. We weren't a jam band, but it was very musical. And that was because Rob was a jazz guy, a composer in his own right, who could come out from behind the kit and say, play this chord over that chord, it'll sound right, you know, which most drummers aren't capable of doing that. And he really pushed us, but it was really pushing the music. Mm-hmm. When I began to evolve, and that comment about, can he write about anything other than girls, stuck in my head, and I was like, I got to be aware of that. As a writer, I have to be aware of that. And so my songs now are far more personal and less vague, and very often a story. You know, like they're almost like little mini books or movies.
Vignettes.
You know, yeah, like little vignettes. That's right. Yeah. And so, and that happened. I was in my kitchen one afternoon, and I sat down and wrote this song called "Time We Spent in Memphis," and I wrote that song in about 15 minutes or less. And I don't think I've ever changed. I don't think I changed anything from when I sat down and wrote that song. And when I was done, I was like, did I just write this? Like like to the point where I had to like, is this somebody else's song? Mm-hmm. But that was a huge moment for me. And in that moment I went, I can write. That song like convinced me I can write. I can write better than I was writing before. And that was the beginning of me really working on the craft as a songwriter. Mm-hmm. and which I think now I've moved that and evolved that along pretty nicely.
Talking to my father, shrouded by a clear blue day, which only seemed more unusual. Some years ago he'd passed away. I was talking, he was listening. I wondered what he might say. I felt a tug on my toe. I woke up and he slipped away. I remember he was looking on me with his father eyes, saw the pain in my face, wiped a teardrop from my eye, came stood beside me, and we walked step in step. I remember feeling a little cheated, cause you know he didn't look like he'd been dead. And I tried to tell him where my struggles all began. I felt his hand on my shoulder, as if to say things will be better again. Sometimes he was a cowboy, sometimes he was the chief, but first he was my father, that's what he gave to me. I wish we could just sit down and watch Jeter and Mo in another game. Maybe talk about some of the pay that today's players make. Talk about Mickey Mantle, or maybe Joe DiMaggio. Whitey Ford, Yogi Berra was his favorite one, you know. Sometimes he was a cowboy, sometimes he was the chief, but first he was my father, that's what he gave to me. So many questions I never got to ask. Like, did he feel lonely when his father and two brothers had passed? I guess he thought he should join them to welcome their mother home. But I wonder if he'd gone so soon if he'd known that she'd be so long. And I think about some of the things he might have kept hid from when he was a young man, when he was just a little kid. Sometimes he was a cowboy, sometimes he was the chief, but first he was my father, that's what he gave to me. Sometimes he was a cowboy, sometimes he was the chief, but first he was my father, that's what he gave to me.
Yeah, because you've got over 100 songs in your catalog, so you've been writing quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't get writer's block. I never suffer from writer's block. So I have about, of my 4 CDs, I have about 40 something songs. So I've got 60 songs that I haven't even released yet. Mm-hmm. And you know, I don't know if every one of them will ever see the light of day, but I'm at a point, and not, I don't mean it to sound full of myself, but like I don't write bad songs anymore. Like I don't write songs, like in the beginning I would go, well, here's these 10 songs, but these 3 really aren't really good songs. I'll just kind of whatever. Now, if I have 10 songs, I think all of them are quality songs. You know, now some may be better than another, but I think they're all worthy of being performed or recorded or whatever. You know, so I worked on that a lot, and there was a book called Songwriters on Songwriting that I read, which was about how all the songwriters from, you know, every walk of life, how they work their craft, you know, and whether they're in the Brill Building in the 60s or they're getting the song from the Muse or they collaborate. I read that book and I was like, oh my God, I write just like so-and-so. I write just like so-and-so. I write this way. Oh, I believe in that too. And so that sort of validated a lot of what I was doing for myself. And then, so, yeah, I like writing. I like to write.
So, you know, I wanted to just talk to you. I know that you perform over 200 nights a year.
Yeah.
So what's that like?
It's fun. It's fun. It's not work.
You're working pretty hard there.
No, it's never work. It's never work. That's not work to me. That's not work. Going out playing music to be paid for it, to play music, that's not work. I take Mark Twain to heart. Let your vocation be is it your vacation be your vocation? I'm not working.
That's
I'm just
a new
out
one.
playing.
I haven't heard that one.
Oh yeah, that's a Mark Twain thing.
Yeah.
Make your vocation your vacation your vocation. and you'll never work a day in your life. I'm pretty sure that's Mark Twain. And I'm very fortunate in that way. I am physically durable and can hold up, and I've been doing 200 nights a year for probably close to 20 years. So I'm ready to be an overnight success, by the way.
Okay.
I put 20 years in and hundreds of shows, thousands probably at this point.
Especially over this past year, because this past year with the album that you put out, Aberdeen, why don't you tell our audience about that?
Well,
and some of the people you've been performing with.
Yeah, Aberdeen was my 4th record. I did it locally here in Bronxville with Al Hemberger at the Lost Studios in Bronxville. And I went in there with Al, and I got the guys in the band that I've been playing with for the last 7 or 8 years, and they came in, and we just kind of banged out these songs that we'd been playing live pretty frequently, but just hadn't had a chance to go in the studio for a whole lot of reasons. Just didn't have the time and money, and there were a few reasons why we didn't get in there. But I co-produced it with him, which was the first time I've ever really done that. And I took a smarter business approach to this record, where in the past, my first 3 records, I would finish the product and have no money left and no plan, and then nothing happened. So there's no surprise. Though I got a lot of positive feedback on all 3 of those releases, and I got press and but no momentum. With Aberdeen, I had a very strategic plan. I had a radio promoter. We got the record to number 13 nationally on the record charts. It went to 13 on the AAA, AMA, APD chart, which is kind of an industry chart, but national, the FAR chart, and we got on that FAR went to 15, and the Roots 66 chart, we got on there as well. And so that's a nice thing to be able to say, like, oh, my record charted, it was number 13. And I was on there with John Mellencamp and Greg Allman and Steve Martin and Edie Brickell. I mean, like, you're seeing your name with these people, and you're like, huh, and then that led to kind of off of that momentum so that was on June 26, 2015, we released that record. And then that was it just kept going. And then I opened up in January with the Subdudes, February Tanya Tucker, then I opened for Dr.John. We did a headlining show down at B.B. King's with the Matt Ray Trio, and then and then June 26, 2016, I opened up for Kansas, exactly 1 year to the date. Sort of just randomly that happened. And that was a very punctuating way to end that, to play with Kansas. I mean, it's like, I would tell them, oh, I'm open for Kansas. Like, you are? I'm like, yeah, isn't that cool? And everybody was great. Every one of those people were great. They were all very friendly, all very cordial, very supportive.
And this is you solo. It's not with your band or because you have a duo.
Well, B.B. King's was full band. Mm-hmm. And that was a home run. That was a total home run. They've been like trying to get us back down there. We just got to work out a date. And the openings were a variation of solos and duos. Mm-hmm. And spread out, Town Crier, Paramount, a couple up in Richfield, Connecticut, the Tarrytown Music Hall. So, spreading out a little bit, getting in front of people, selling CDs, signing autographs. It's been a trip.
I believe things happen for a reason, and this might be our season. I too love the smell of the beaches. I wanna see how long fate reaches. I see you in front of me. I see you looking right back at me. Can you see I've been weeping? I wanna know, are you happy? Hanging on for 21 long years. Had some close calls, cried a river of tears. I believe when the time is right, our 2 worlds, they will collide. And we will hug each other and we will cry. I see you laughing and dancing. I see you smoking and drinking. I wanna see inside of your soul. I wanna know what you've been thinking. Hanging on for 21 long years. Had some close calls, cried a river of tears. I believe when the time is right, our 2 worlds, we will collide. And we will hug each other and we will cry. We will hug each other and we will cry. I'm so glad to have you in my life. Just wish we hadn't lost so much time. I hear time can't stand still, so we can catch up, I know we will. We're hanging on for 21 long years, had some close calls, cried a river of tears. I believe when the time is right, our two worlds, they will collide, and we will hug each other and we will cry. We will hug each other and we will cry. You love horses and so do I. Maybe one day we can ride side by side into a sunset, 'cause I know this story ain't over yet. We're hanging on for 21 long years, had some close calls, cried a river of tears. I believe when the time is right, our two worlds, they will collide, and we will hug each other and we will cry. We will hug each other and we will cry. I will be forgiven when we cry. We'll have a new beginning when we cry. When we cry. When we cry.
Well, you know what? Because where time is winding down, I want to give our audience, I know that you're going to be performing right here in Peekskill
Yes.
on the 30th, so why don't you
September
tell
the
our
30th.
audience about that?
September the 30th, opening up for the latest iteration of Jefferson Starship, which is now billed as Starship, featuring Mickey Thomas, who is the guy that did all their hits in the 80s, that sang all the songs in the 80s. We Built This City,
Yep.
Sarah, Jane. He also, one of my favorite songs, he sang Fooled Around and Fell in Love, which is the Elvin Bishop hit from like the early 70s or mid 70s, which is how he got into the band. But
Wait a
he's
minute,
the
I thought
vocalist.
somebody else did that song.
No, he's the vocalist on Elvin Bishop's Fooled Around and Fell in Love.
Okay.
That's how he got to that's how Paul Kantner got to him. He heard that and he's like, you got to sing for us. And so he brought him into the band. Grace Slick had left. He brought Mickey Thomas in. And then I think Paul Kantner left, and then Grace Slick came back. And then eventually, they had all those hits together, Grace Slick and Mickey Thomas as Jefferson Starship, right? And then there's some stuff going on, I guess, whatever, and how they hashed out the remains of the Starship and Jefferson Starship and the airplane and whatever. And so in the end now it's Starship featuring Mickey Thomas, but that's at the Paramount on September 30th. And then in an odd twist of fate, I had already been scheduled to play at the Hudson Room that same night, which is literally right next door with my full band. So we're looking to have people hopefully come to the Starship show, and then
Right
maybe
after.
come afterwards, just come right in and sit and see the band. So it's got to be unique. It's a unique experience, you know. So
And you're also trying to, although you haven't worked out all the details, you're going to be having a Kickstarter campaign.
yeah, I've been a little hesitant about getting it started, and partly because I'm just a little hesitant about it, and partly because I have an opportunity to work with a Grammy Award-winning producer for my next record, which could be really cool, but it's a lot of money to do this work with him. And I have an opportunity to work with somebody else who I think would be a really good producer, and it may not be as much money. And so I have to kind of make some decisions about
But
that.
it'll all be on your website, so why don't you tell the audience about the website?
That website is my name, www.artietobia.com.
Okay.
ARTIETOBIA.
Well, Artie, I want to thank you for coming to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's been great talking to you and getting to know you a little bit.
Excellent. Thank you.
And to the Living Arts audience, as always, I've enjoyed being with you. I hope you enjoyed the interview. And we've got some great information for you on our Facebook page. And we can go to the YouTube channel that we have, and you can see previous shows that we've done. And we will see you again soon. Peace.
I met a girl that if I was Superman, you know, to me she would be just like kryptonite. She'd make me weak, she'd bring me down to my knees. I couldn't even put up a fight. She said, come on baby, just take me home. I said, baby, please, you gotta let me be. She whispered, baby, it's gonna be alright. What could I do? she was kryptonite. I met a girl that if I was Superman, you know, to me she would be just like kryptonite. Get too close, I'm like a bullet from a gun. I run, oh fly away. She said, come on baby, just take me home. I said, baby, please, you gotta let me be. She whispered, baby, it's gonna be alright. What could I do? She was kryptonite. She said, come on baby, just take me home. I said, baby, please, you gotta let me be. She whispered, baby, it's gonna be alright. What could I do? She was kryptonite. I met a girl that if I was Superman, you know, to me she would be just like kryptonite. A siren song, you know, it is so strong. And my strength, it's the price I pay. She said, come on baby, just take me home. I said, baby, please, you gotta let me be. She whispered, baby, it's gonna be alright. What could I do? She was kryptonite. She said, come on baby, won't you take me home? I said, baby, please, you gotta let me be. She whispered, baby, it's gonna be alright. What could I do? She was kryptonite.